So our invasive species survey and action plan that we're going to create for the forest ecology and civics course is worth a value of 10%. This is a group project that you'll be working on together in your team, so that your team will earn a mark out of 10%, which you'll share throughout the team. Okay, so just a quick little intro. Forest ecology in southern Ontario is greatly modified by invasive plants, not only animals and insects, but also plant species. The ecology of the forest may not be the same as the same forest type in a more remote location due to people in urban spaces and the threat of non-native plants that establish in that area. So when as urban forestry technicians, when working within a woodlot of a urban or peri-urban region, we must always consider the presence of invasive species and how their activity and our activity as humans may influence the development of the invasive species and how that in turn influences the ecology of the forest. So for this assignment, I just mostly want to go over what you need to do in the field, because the field trip time is always limited. So I want to make sure you gather everything that you need, and then we can always catch up in class on what the next steps are from this project. Okay, so a few things first. Assignment details. Your job as your team is to document what invasive species are present, set priorities, and develop your plan of attack for management, and map the areas you have inventoried, and gather the required data and include that into the map. Okay, but first of all, task 1. Each team will be assigned a portion of trail to inventory in the urban woodlot that we are going to go to. And along that trail, you'll be responsible for mapping your route, documenting and recording the data that you find. And then when you're done, all teams will submit the finished map as part of their assignment, along with a report to kind of go through the management plan that you'd recommend. Okay, pre-work before we get out into the field, what I would highly recommend is in the D2L resources folder, review the files in the invasive species management plan folder. Okay, better yet, download these plans right to your phone or to your tablet, whatever you're going to bring with you out into the field, or else have that information for you handy. Print it if you need to. Have that information handy, okay, because you may want to refer to that. It would be best if you review this information before you go into the field, because you may be a little lost without it, but if you have a resource when you're in the field, it would be important. Okay, gather photos for not only for this project but for your plant collection. Your best bet is to photograph it. Don't even worry about ID right now if you're not sure. Photograph every plant that you see, and that way we can come back and identify it later. You'll use the plants for your plant collection, but you'll also use any invasive ones for this project. Okay, and the type of sampling that we are going to do, you can read more about that on page 10 of the Invasive Species Management Guide in the D2L Resources folder. That's the main handout I want you to look at, in the one that you can refer to when you're in the field. So that's the main one you should download. Okay, we're going to use the Transect sampling random trail based method. Okay, and that's on page 10 in that manual. Complete the table. I will have this table ready for you. It's on figure 3, page 10. That's the one that you need to fill out the data on. I'll have that for you on a form that your team can use in the field. Okay, and I'm hoping that everyone has an Android device, one member on the team that's able to use that, because Google My Tracks is a great app for creating fast and easy tracks, and that's what I want, is to put our tracks in, drop a pin on our sample locations, and then that will allow us to enter data onto that location. Okay. Next, once we have this information gathered using pages 16 to 27 and the data collected, we want you to develop an invasive species control plan based on the information that you have gathered. Okay. Also recognize cost is important. Okay, there's lots of great ideas that we could do, but sometimes we can't afford to do it. Okay, so we have to keep that into keep it relevant to what we can actually afford to do. Okay, create a table such as on page 20 in the manual, and a ranking system which is on page 21 and 22 to compare the abundance, aggressiveness of the species and the cost of control. Okay. and be sure to provide control strategies, monitoring protocol to kind of keep track of the progress of the invasives once you have that plan into place. Okay, and all that information, that guideline is all there in that manual, which I told you about in the resources folder. You just need to follow along that book and plug in the information and the data that you've collected. Okay, so finally what you want to submit is a thorough and to the point summary of your invasive species plan and a Google map using Google My Maps with the following layers. Okay, so there should be a tracks covered for the inventory, and then there should be a layer, or sorry, with that, location points of the invasive species. So I want to know at the points you surveyed, what invasive species did you find. I'd like to have another layer of natural and cultural points of interest. Okay, there might be some interesting things in the woodlot, such as unique old trees or rare tree species, or old fence lines or signs of older kind of cultural significant points of history that may have been kind of buried or lost. So that sort of thing should be documented and pointed out as well. Okay, and then I'd also like to have a polygon outlining the area of the forest interior. So your best bet is with Google Maps. I can post an example for you in D2L, but have an example of the map and then an example or a representation of how much forest interior is actually present in this forest.